In the NFL, is Peyton Manning done in Denver? ESPN.com insider Mike Sando spoke to an NFL personnel director 2 months ago who said he thought the Broncos would be eager to make the move to Brock Osweiler at the earliest opportunity. The personnel director added, quote, "If anybody is going to make the change like that, the person who's going to do it is Elway. No one else could do that in the middle of the season with possibly the greatest quarterback of all time. If stuff does not perk up, there will be a mystery injury, and there will be no coming back." Skip, have we seen the last of Manning as a Bronco?
I don't know, Stephen A. I read this piece and I was dumbfounded by paragraph after paragraph. And Mike Sando quoted some other insiders, personnel type people in the NFL who shared a similar view that the Broncos could not wait to replace Peyton Manning. And at the first opportunity, once they demoted him, he would stay demoted. The reason this is hard for me is because Peyton Manning still had this team at 7-1 going into the Kansas City, what turned into a debacle. And they were down 22-0 when Brock Osweiler took over. And I didn't watch it, but the numbers are decent, 14-24 for 141 yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception. But that was straight mop-up. That was game lost. You get to go in with not that much expectation and just let it fly. And if you're telling me that it's strictly about Peyton's inability to stay healthy, I would get that. If we're talking about just straight ability, I do not get it, because I still think Peyton Manning is a much better option than Brock Osweiler. I will tell you, I probably watched Brock Osweiler 3 times when he was at Arizona State.
I watched him once.
I wasn't exactly blown away any of the times I watched him. 6'7", 240 pounds, got drafted when he was only 21 years of age. But then again, a second-round pick. But still, is that the next Peyton Manning? Really? That's going to be a better option even right now than Peyton Manning? We know his body is betraying him. We talked on Monday. Now he's got a torn plantar fascia on top of bruised ribs. I don't know if they're cracked, but bruised, and some shoulder issue that they list on the injury report. So his body is breaking down. If you're telling me he just can no longer stay healthy at age 39, he'll turn 40 shortly after the season in March. And remember, most quarterbacks, history will show you, hit the wall at 38. That's always been the cutoff age where they start to unravel at 38. Even the great ones, you can just track it. But at 39 going on 40,
right,
is the body just shot where he can never stay or get healthy? Okay, if you're telling me that, that's fine. But I'd still rather have Peyton Manning, even right now, if he could get healthy in 2 more weeks to make a playoff run over Brock Osweiler. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I don't get that. And I don't get this piece came off, and again, Mike's just quoting these people, but it came off as very harsh, but they seem to know what they were talking about, that it sounds like, and we know that there's been a sort of a culture clash between Kubiak and Peyton, but it almost sounds like when Kubiak took over, his mandate was, we've got to find our first opening to ease Peyton out the back door and go with Brock Osweiler.
There's a couple of layers to this that I think you haven't touched on, so I'm going to try to do it for you. First of all, let me be the first to say that Kubiak is the luckiest dude in America. He did absolutely nothing to deserve this job in this pristine position. You have this job. This is nepotism at its best, because you have this job because you are a friend and somebody that John Elway knew. I'm not trying to disrespect him. I'm just stating fact. Based on how things ended for you in Houston, based on what you failed to accomplish throughout your years in Houston, you did not deserve this head coaching job. It's that simple. You lucked up. That's number one. Number two, having said all of that, this is the end for Peyton Manning. I believe that Peyton Manning will retire. I think this is it for him. This is his last season.
He will not play another down.
I'm not saying that. I think ultimately I don't have enough faith in Osweiler to be able to deliver the goods this season in terms of a Super Bowl championship.
That's a lot to ask.
That's a lot to ask for a guy we haven't seen since Arizona State. Okay? So I'm of the mindset that once Peyton Manning is healthy enough and he can come back, you got to ride the wave with an individual who will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks who have ever played in the NFL. You're going to have to ride that wave, all right? So we recognize that. I think we will see Peyton Manning again. But I think that when he comes back for this season will be his last. It will be his swan song. Peyton Manning will announce his retirement at the end of this season, in my opinion. Now, we get to the layers that I think that you've missed. I think where you're missing the boat, Skip, is that when it comes to John Elway, only John Elway could pull this off. Because I think he's established himself as an elite executive in this game. I think he's done an outstanding job. Every move hasn't been perfect. But the one thing that you cannot argue about him, when he says he's going for a ring, everything that he has done has said to me, I'm going for the ring.
Okay.
Acquiring Peyton Manning, acquiring DeMarcus Ware, acquiring Akeem Talib and paying him the money they paid. T.J. Ward, okay? Yeah, you got rid of John Fox and the staff, but you're bringing Kubiak for the offense. But Wade Phillips is your defensive coordinator, okay? Which we know he's elite at doing, all right?
Yep.
I mean, C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman, that ain't Super Bowl caliber stuff, but maybe they'll get their act together and remember to show up and do what we both know they're capable of doing, because we had C.J. Anderson on this show. That boy can play. You just need to play better. I don't know what the hell's going on with their running game. Having said all of that, the layer that we haven't touched, Skip, did it ever occur to you that when it comes, even though Elway is within his right, because he's a two-time Super Bowl champion who played that position, certainly Kubiak doesn't have the right to do it, but did it ever occur to anybody that you could actually be tired of Peyton Manning? I know that's hard to believe. It's sacrilegious.
Are you talking about John Elway?
I'm talking about Kubiak, and to a lesser degree, John Elway.
I think it's pretty clear that Kubiak was tired before he even got the job.
Well, let me tell you why I feel that way. Again, Manning is class. He's not only great, he's class personified, and the Manning family is the first family. Did it ever occur to anybody that that's kind of annoying for people working with Manning that have their own vision about what they want to do? They don't want you calling this play. They don't want you running this offense. They don't want you to do this and this and that. I'm just saying.
But Gary Kubiak proved what in Houston?
Nothing.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming Peyton Manning.
All right.
You know, I'm saying to you that we keep talking about stuff as it pertains to his injuries, his health, his body failing him. Well, that's a given. If you ain't healthy, who can't tell him to sit down? What's the trepidation for? What's all the hesitancy? What's all the anonymous quotes about? That ain't about a dude who's injured. If you injured, but you're great, you're injured. Okay, we'll see you when you get back. It's that simple. There's more here than that. And I believe there's more here than that because the greatness of Peyton Manning sort of dilutes and minimizes and diminishes the importance of other people around him who want to be important. And as a result, that's why you're hearing all of this mimicking stuff and all of this stuff going on, because they don't hate Peyton Manning or anything. He's not a bad guy. Of course not. What they're saying is that we have our own vision about what we want to do about life without Peyton Manning. And with this defense playing the way that it's playing, it's even more urgent that we expedite that process. And I think you see a little bit of that going on right now, which is why guys, the anonymous quotes, the stories and all of that stuff. I also think some of the hesitancy, though, is because they're not sure if they should be turning to Brock. Well, I don't agree with that. Here's why. Because he's not healthy. So that's your backup. Now, if he were healthy and then you got a decision to make, you know, weeks from now, your point might be valid. But I think right now you have no choice because we're looking at Peyton Manning and the body's failing and we're wondering the plantar fascia and, you know, everything that he's going through and it's 39 and attrition, all of that stuff is kicked in. So it's a perfect legitimate excuse to sit there and say, Osweiler, come on in and show us what you got. In weeks from now, that may not be the case. When Peyton Manning gets healthy, there ain't nothing to discuss. Osweiler move out the way, Peyton Manning come back.
Really? Well, that's not what this story suggests.
And I'm telling you, that's why. What other excuse can they possibly have? We've seen nothing from Osweiler for anybody to sit up there and say, it's time for Peyton Manning to sit down. This guy is going to be our guy. They can't get away with that.
Maybe they're seeing it in practice. They might.
But
maybe Gary Kubiak is.
All right, maybe so. Maybe so. But you know something? Go ahead and pull that off. This ain't Drew Bledsoe.
Good luck with that.
This ain't Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady. Tom Brady succeeding. I
agree.
Drew Bledsoe. This is Peyton Manning. You can't pull that off. But if you were trying to, what other methodology would you exercise other than what we're seeing? Okay.
Here's where I do disagree with you. Your bottom line. You think we've seen the end of Peyton, like he will retire after this season?
Yes.
Okay. If by chance Peyton cannot get healthy the rest of this season, and there's a good chance of that. If you have torn plantar fascia, you're not going to be able to come back. You're going to be limpy the rest of the year. So if that's the case, and Peyton just can't get healthy for the rest of for the home stretch here, I believe he will definitely want to play one more season. Now, would John Elway say not here? He might.
But see, that's where it also gets tricky. Because if we look at these reports, and we have no reason to believe with Sando that there's no legitimacy to it, okay? Well, in a roundabout, tepid way, if not more directly, you got cats saying we don't necessarily want him. And I find Peyton Manning to be the kind of personality that's like, all right, bye. I don't want to be where I'm not wanted. I've been around this game for too long. Peyton, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Go back to Indy? They ain't an option. Go to another team?
Well, that's what
new
I'm saying.
System?
Would Peyton,
I don't know about that.
Just out of spite, you know, like personal spite, like in a good way. Just say, I want to play another year.
He's a grown man. He's a grown man. And I think that Peyton Manning has accomplished entirely too much in his career to go through that. You know what? If you're not going to be at Denver, I think it's too late in the game in his career to go someplace else and say, well, let me start anew for one more year. I don't see that. I could be wrong, Skip, but I don't see that.
Would the Jets say,
hey, he could certainly start anew in television.
If he were healthy, I would love it. But the point is that that's a lot to ask of him at 39 years of age with his body clearly failing. If the one thing he can't dispute is that his body is kind of failing him.
It is failing.
That he can't argue.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. The Cleveland Browns have solidified their quarterback situation finally, and we saw vintage Johnny football versus the Steelers. But what would have happened if he was the quarterback of the Cowboys the last 7 weeks? We'll discuss.